ගරුතුමනි නීතිය තුල තියෙන නීතිය අලුත් විය යුතුත් ඒවා තුල තියෙන හිඩැස් ආමන්ත්‍රණය කිරීමට ගත යුතු පියවර පිළිවෙලට අපේ විය යුතු දෙයක් හැටියට අපි බාර ගන්න අතර I just want to note that there's one bill which was supposed to be amended, which was presented for amendment, this poisons, opium and dangerous drugs bill, which has not been tabled today, but which perhaps will be taken up later. If it's still undergoing review, I want to draw your attention, Honourable Minister, to certain provisions in the bill which are extremely dangerous and very worrying. There are many issues with that bill that need to be addressed. However, there's one area in particular that I would like to draw your attention to, and that is with regard to compulsory rehabilitation. That has been included in that bill, which has not been presented today, but if it's being taken up, please make note of this, that these areas should also be paid attention to. As you know, drug rehabilitation for drug addiction is an area of specialized concerns, which has a lot to do with health, mental health, and also socio-economic conditions. And compulsory rehabilitation is a concept which is extremely controversial, and in this bill it was proposed that even children under 18 years who are arrested under certain conditions should be sent for compulsory rehabilitation. If this bill is going to be presented, I urge you to take a serious look at that section on compulsory rehabilitation, because it is not something that is in line with international standards of human rights or treatment of drug addiction. I think the point is that the concepts that have been included in this bill, I think, point to a larger problem of law and order, of justice in this country, and particularly about how we consider things like crime, punishment, and rehabilitation. This also links, I think, to the fact that right now we are probably facing one of the most damaging international indictments on the country in terms of what happened in Geneva recently. We will have to acknowledge the fact that internationally also we are at the lowest ebb today when we consider how we are being considered with regard to important issues like law and order, democracy and justice. While the minister also today, when he spoke, talked about the fact that we are caught in a web of international global politics, and that's true. I mean, I think there's no denying the fact that human rights regimes, human rights institutions work within that international order, and that those agendas will always come into play. As sovereign countries, we need to know how to position ourselves, taking into account that reality. And the fact of the matter is, it is not the international global context that has brought about these problems for our country, but the practices of our own governments. For several years, serially, we have failed, as the governments have failed to put in place trustworthy and acceptable mechanisms for accountability and ensuring justice in this country. That is why we are constantly and consistently subject to these kinds of indictments by the international human rights community. More than the international human rights community, our concern should be with the way in which citizens of this country no longer have any trust or faith in this system. We keep talking about domestic mechanisms, but it is a fact that today domestic mechanisms are completely untrustworthy or not acceptable to citizens of this country. Although the Minister for Foreign Affairs in Geneva spoke about how the right, for example, the right to free expression is sacrosanct, I actually looked up the specific meaning of that term sacrosanct, and it means something that is sacred, something that is holy. I think ever since this president was voted into power by this parliament by 133 members, we can see how sacrosanct that right to free expression has been. In fact, just yesterday, we saw how sacrosanct this government considers the right to free expression is. 7 student activists have been arrested just yesterday for attempting to express themselves. There are 2 student activists held under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Ever since, for the last couple of months, no person, no citizen of this country who tried to express themselves have been allowed to do so without being attacked by the police. These are the reasons why we are facing the kinds of condemnation internationally today in the midst of a economic crisis, where on the one hand we are going around with a begging bowl expecting the international community to bail us out. So the fact of the matter is that citizens of this country have no trust, no faith in the ability of this government to deliver justice, to uphold law and order, or to ensure democracy. The feeling amongst the citizens of this country is that the system of law and order or democratic institutions are just there in name and are there to protect the powerful, to protect the government, and to protect a very violent and corrupt government. They are certainly not there to protect the citizens of this country. That's the feeling that the majority of citizens of Sri Lanka have, that they are upholding, that the law and order system in this country is actually upholding a corrupt and violent regime and is not there to deliver justice to the people of this country. And that's ultimately the aim or the reason for us to have law and order, for us to have a system of justice in this country, is to see how those systems can deliver justice to the citizens of this country, and not just to the powerful, and not just to those who are part of government. So any justice system needs to think about how punishment must be objective, must be reasonable, must be proportionate, how legal decisions should be implemented through unbiased procedures. And this is exactly what is lacking in our systems of law and order and justice in the country right now. So in that, such a context... So indeed, it's in that context that we are facing the condemnation of the international community at a moment when we are seeking their help to resolve a very critical economic crisis. So establishing that trust is one of the conditions for establishing political stability in this country. And as long as we are unable to do that, we will not be able to intervene to resolve the very serious economic problems that we are currently facing. Thank you very much.
You're watching the Lifetraveler channel.